There's a quiet myth we carry about life, that by a certain age you're supposed to know who you are, what you do, what you're good at, what your story is. And once that's decided, that's it. You stay in your lane, you play your role, you don't start over. But what if that's not true? What if life isn't a straight line, but something more like a game, where new levels appear when you least expect them, where the skills you learnt in one world suddenly matter in another, where curiosity, not certainty, is the thing that actually keeps you moving forward. Because sometimes the most interesting version of your life doesn't begin at the beginning. It begins the moment you decide you're not done evolving. Tonight, we talk about reinvention, imagination, and what happens when you pick up a new game and it changes everything. Welcome to Spirit Talk Show, Bedtime Stories for Grown-Ups. I'm Doyle, I'm here with Howie, and tonight's guest is living proof that creativity doesn't come with an expiration date. Richard Sparks, an English-born writer now based in Los Angeles, and author of the new rock fantasy series stories inspired by strategy, challenge, and community, all shaped by an unexpected discovery of gaming later in life. But his creative journey didn't start there. Early in his career, Richard was writing comedy for some of the most iconic British shows, including Not the 9 O'Clock News and The Secret Policeman's Ball, working alongside legends like Rowan Atkinson and John Cleese. And somewhere between those worlds, comedy and fantasy, stage and story, structure and play, he found something that connects it all: curiosity. Richard's work explores what happens when you allow yourself to evolve, to take risks, to try something new, and to follow creativity into unexpected places. Whether it's writing jokes for live audiences or building entire worlds inspired by gaming culture, he reminds us that reinvention isn't something reserved for the young. It's something available anytime you're willing to begin again. Tonight we talk about storytelling, about creativity across different worlds, and about what it means to level up, not just in games, but in life. So
there we are.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm trying not to be too much of a fanboy because I grew up in Ireland and I grew up watching the young ones, Red Dwarf, Blackadder, Only Fools and Horses. I don't know if you worked on any of these, but I'll try not to be too...
some of them.
I try not... My dad, who still lives in Ireland, quotes like Only Fools and Horses, like Del Boy is like his idol.
Yeah, the writer of that, I can't even remember the writer's name. Very good. Rick Mayal and Edmondson, I gave them their first big job.
Oh, wow.
Back in 1981. They were young comedians from the Comedy Store. Mm-hmm. And say they were the beginning of the alternative comedians in England, following the American alternative comedians, the Richard Pryors and Steve Martins. And I saw them and I thought they were great, but I didn't have room for them because we were doing one of these charity shows with lots of comedians and musicians like, Neil Innes and Ian Dury and Elvis Costello. I'm trying to think of Stefan Grappelli, the amazing jazz violinist. And lots of comedians. It was like a 4-hour show. So I invited Rick to come along to do a piece. And of course, Adrian Edmondson arrived first. So, no, you're coming too, are you? Jolly good, So they did one of their double act things. And that was the first time they were seen on TV. It was before the young ones. But they were great. And I wrote a rock video that Rick was in.
Wow.
The band, the Art of Noise.
I know Rick tried to come to his first movie debut in the United States. Didn't go so well for him. What was it called?
No, I think he was homesick. I don't know. It was Phoebe Cates or someone was in it. Was it Drop Dead Fred or one of those? I think
that was it. It was Drop Dead Fred. And by the way, I'm here with Howie and talking about violinist. He owns he's a violist himself. He does.
So you know Stefan Grappelli?
I've heard the name, but unfortunately, I haven't heard any of his music.
Well,
I'm
absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, I should check it out.
Go onto YouTube and listen to his version of Lady Be Good. He was the original Hot Club of Paris, the Hot Club de Paris in the 20s and 30s, with Django Reinhardt on guitar.
Okay.
And it was a quartet. Stefan was the... Oh, God, it's a wonderful story. This was 1981. It was the year of the disabled in England.
Yeah.
So we were doing a charity show for MenCap, the mentally disabled charity. and Stefan agreed to be in it, and he came along, and we had, instead of having all the rock and rollers bring their own band, which would have meant setting up, we had a band of really good, top quality English studio musicians, London, the best guys.
Wow.
Nico Ramsden was the guitar player, and so they backed up everybody, like Ian Dury, who I mentioned, Elvis Costello, they all had this band playing behind them. And during the rehearsals, by which time we were all absolutely exhausted, I was standing in the auditorium as Stefan Grappelli and his group were doing a warm-up song. They just got into a song and just swung. I mean, just brilliant. And I just realized somebody had materialized in the auditorium way at the back, in this empty auditorium. I produced it. Mel directed it, and Mel Smith. And there was somebody was standing next to me, and it was Nico, the guitar player, and he was watching intensely. And when they finished, he said, and Stefan was in his 70s by this time, and Nick said, "Boy, does that fucker swing." One of the best encomiums from one very talented musician to a great one.
Well, they know and they feel it, and they see the art, and they play.
Yeah, it's so that's so all that stuff in England was very much fun in the old days.
So I wonder, growing up and on British comedy, I'm seeing the how different the British office is from the American office and the type of humor. What do you think? What did British humor and comedy do to storytelling that came here?
What does it do to storytelling?
What did British comedy, what did the way that British comedy is different, from American comedy? Did it change the way people tell stories here? Do people do comedy different?
No, story structure is the same whether you're doing comedy, whether you're doing tragedy, whether you're doing... I mean, it's always... Story structure is solid. It's just a matter of timing and pacing and attitude and tone and all that. So no, there's no difference between British story structure and American story structure. The differences are in the details of what the two cultures do differently. Because, I mean, they've only been divided for 300 or 400 years, the longest. So, Anthony Burgess, the great writer, said that if Shakespeare sounded like anyone alive today, it would be a Boston Irishman. So, quite interesting viewpoint. So, it's the same but different. Something like some comedians go over to England and to America and try and conquer it. And these were mainly the old-fashioned working-class stand-up comedians like Bruce Forsyth. Never made it. Rick didn't make it, really. Rowan Atkinson did a successful run in New York in the early days. But others, like the Pythons, go over there and absolutely love it. Like we get Steve Martin and Robin Williams and all those greats. And now, of course, through TV, there's a real cross-culturalization. But some things are very different, like the quiz shows that they take, the British idea and do it in America. They do it in a different style, which works for the American audience, understandably.
But I think British, BBC is braver in when they have shows go for 3, 5, 6 seasons, whereas in America they've decided in the first 6 episodes, it feels like.
That happens. When I came over here, I was working with Blake Hunter and Marty Cohan, who produced Who's the Boss? Yeah. And the first season of what I was working on with them, they said, there's this new show it's been ordered at NBC. They've only ordered 2. So, I mean, it can't be any good. A show called Seinfeld. They ordered initial order of 2 shows.
2 episodes.
Only 2, wow.
Yeah. And it ran, and it outlasted anything that Marty and Blake and I were doing. And it was brilliant.
And didn't Seinfeld change the way residuals were paid? Didn't Seinfeld... I know he did incredibly well from that, but wasn't that instrumental in the way residuals were paid?
To some extent, but residuals... I mean, if you look at Norman Lear's career, no. And Johnny Spate, the English writer, got very nice residuals for when his show, Till Death Us Do Part, was brought to America and turned into All in the Family. Yeah. It was a huge hit. So, yes, I mean, normally if you get a sensible agent, the networks are happy, or they were in those days, happy to give you a piece of the action because you deserved it. I mean, they will always try and screw the writers out of anything they can, but they just say, and there are various union things in place, which I think are a lot different nowadays. I haven't done TV for a bit.
It shocks me. I have a friend who wrote a book that was made into a Kevin Costner movie, and he was hardly invited to the premiere. He kind of forced his way in, and he sat in the back. This is the person who wrote the book that was based on this movie, Kevin Costner. Is it why did they treat writers like that? Yeah.
That is the thing. Honestly, look, it takes a while to realize this, and you have to tell young writers this. Writers belong in the background. You think that, because you've created it and all that it's your thing, but by the time it's adapted, they don't need you anymore. Yeah. They don't need you on the set. Why do they need the writer on the set? That would mean there's a problem with the script. That should have been solved a long time ago. They don't need you there. I mean, look at the 40 Shades of Grey woman standing on the set and having her 10 cents worth whenever she felt like it, because she had the right to do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean either she's an expert or that she was needed. But, they don't need the writer on the set. When I go to the set, I just go once, usually towards the end of something, usually in the lunch hour, so I can just say hello to the actors and make a few, feeble jokes, and then bugger off. Watch a couple of scenes being taken and tell everyone they're brilliant, and then leave.
And bugger off. I'm sure that Rolling can go and have a lot of say on the set on how things are done. So someone like that.
Oh yeah, but yes, of course. Well, when you're on that level, of course. Are we recording yet, or do you want to start later?
Sorry. Well, what I usually do is I like the banter we get at the start, so I record from I record from the second we speak, and I use because I think I like the. Who played Frasier? Kelsey Grammer's style of acting, like he liked to rehearse once and then do it like for the first time on set, because I want the natural feel. I don't want it to feel like to rehearse, like we're going to record now 1 through 3 action. I want it to feel more.
Many directors love to record the rehearsals.
Yeah, because I heard the person who did what was the big movie Interstellar, the scene where he cries when he sees his kids at the end, that was the first take that's in the movie, because it was real and he was crying and he was seeing. That was the first take, he said.
You mean the first take or the rehearsal before the first?
I think it might have been a rehearsal. It was supposed to be a rehearsal, but the actor said, what was the actor's name? The guy who's in that movie. We should know his name.
Matthew
McConaughey.
Yeah, okay.
Matthew McConaughey apparently was supposed to do a rehearsal, and I heard him say he told the director to record the rehearsal, and that's what's in the movie is his first reaction, because the first time he saw the videos, and that's real. I think that's what people want now.
Why would any actor resent having the only it happens with actors sadly, but it's only if they're unsure of themselves they might say don't record this, or they're not sure of what they're doing. But normally actors they're usually happy to go for it, because they know that if they make a mistake, it's free. It's gravy. It's just a rehearsal. You can turn around and have. Look at the outtakes of Robin Williams making people laugh in rehearsals.
So, when did you move to Los Angeles?
1992. Our daughter was 3 years old, and we put her in school here, and that's fine. We still kept up. We kept our place in London, so we do go back and forth a bit.
Wow, that's nice.
But I like both places. We're just that lucky generation of the baby boomers who were able to, by the time my mortgage was paid off, we were ready to get somewhere else over here. So,
well, I have a house, but and I lived in Hollywood too from '96 to '98. I did the Hollywood thing. I went to film school. I worked for BBC for a while. I did the Hollywood thing, and the people who I felt treated me nice were the people who were more sure of themselves, and they were good actors, and they didn't have to prove anything. They were the one who treated well. But the people who were kind of insecure were not very pleasant to be around at times.
Yeah, it is funny that, because actors, they need to be completely schizophrenic in a strange way, in that they need to be really sensitive to the material.
Yeah,
they've got to be open to the material. They've got to learn how to read material properly, how to explore it in depth. And then they've got to have the hides of a rhinoceros to survive the business. The rejections. If I write the script and send it in to you, the producer, and that you reject it, you say, no, I don't like it. Well, that hurts, or at least it used to hurt. And nowadays you just, okay. But that's just words on paper. You pour your heart and soul into it. But if you go to an audition as an actor and they say, well, I didn't like you. I mean, that's the whole dot. I didn't like you, as opposed to just what you wrote. And going into a room full of, let's say you're a young actress and you come into a room and there are 12 other young actresses who look just like you, and you think, oh God, this is a dogfight.
Yeah,
and of course they got to get up on stage and nail it. And having been in rehearsals a lot, auditions, what we love is when somebody comes in and you don't have to worry about looking at the next person. You go, oh, that's fine, next. When they come in and absolutely, you go, whoa, yeah, that'll do. Oh. That's what we love. But of course that rarely happens.
Are the decisions made like that? Does that one person come in and you say yes,
yeah,
and then you see all the others, but you've already decided?
No, you don't say it to them. But when they've left the room, you turn to the producer or the director, or if I'm directing it, they turn and say, "Did you see what I saw?"
Yeah,
and everyone did, and you just go, "Yeah, okay, well, we'll invite them back, or we'll link them in, or we'll whatever." And usually, out of politeness, you see the other actors because they might be good for another part or for another project you're doing, or the casting director might have their somebody they want you to see for other things that you're maybe talking about.
So,
but it's rare, but it's fantastic when it happens.
I'm sure there's a few people.
I just saw the other day, I don't know why, I saw Robert Downey's audition tape for Iron Man. Because if you remember at the time, he was pretty much on his uppers in Hollywood.
Yeah.
He'd had a bad run. I think he'd had a drugs problem, was it?
Or
drink
in jail,
or something?
In rehab, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. And I always thought he was a wonderful actor, but he just sort of slightly disappeared. And he came in and he did this audition, and he just nailed it. You go, oh. So that's lovely to see, because he was great in that part.
He genuinely, I see people like him, and I want to ask you about like Rowan Atkinson, John Cleese. These people, they present as really nice people, pleasant to people, or people around. So what can you tell us about these people? Uh-oh.
Well, they can. Look, as Lawrence Durrell, the great English novelist, actually I read one of his books the other day and it was unreadable. I think he's rather dated now. We all present different faces of the prism to different people.
Yeah.
So an actor as skilled as Rowan or John or Robert Downey, they're very skilled at presenting what is needed. So they're good at being outward facing, and they're also they have other personalities that can switch on in a dime. I mean, John and Rowan, Rowan obviously I know well, and they're just totally professional. I mean, John's driven friends of mine up the wall. But in a very nice way.
Yeah.
People he's worked with, like calling up and getting the wrong end of the stick, and then making them laugh a second later because he's brilliantly funny, what can I say? We've seen their work, and we're lucky to have them.
Well, and one production I worked on for BBC was with, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. He was in like Monty Python. He was a stutterer in A Fish Called Wanda. Well, what's his name?
Kevin Kline.
Oh, no, not Kevin Kline. The guy who stuttered. The guy who's English, who was in Monty Python. What's his name? The guy who...
What, Michael Palin?
Michael Palin. The railway...
Oh, yeah.
The railway trip... I worked on railway trips of Europe and in the Irish section.
Oh, good, right.
And he was such a nice guy. He'd sit down and have lunch.
Oh, he's famously the nicest person in Europe.
He was so pleasant.
He's lovely. And here's a trivia quiz question for you. Guess what he has in his back garden in London, or backyard, you Americans would call it.
Oh, well, I'm Irish, but the backyard,
Brits, sorry. Or you Brits neighbours would call it.
Like, did he have a pool in England? That would be odd.
No, it's a World War II anti-aircraft gun.
Whoa. Wow, is he expecting something?
I don't think he's expecting anything. It turned up one day and he put it there or something, but... You just walk through the back. He's got actually two houses that are joined round another house. And you walk out of one and then think, what? What's this doing here?
But, well, you said it's so British comedy. It just turned up one day, is what you said. It actually just turned. He came out of his house one day and it was just there. It turned up.
Probably. Yes.
Wow.
But there's probably. I don't know. I didn't find out the story behind it. I didn't ask Michael.
That's great. He was very nice to be around, and for us, production assistants. I wasn't a peasant. I was somebody he honored and he was nice to and stuff like that. But so you reinvented yourself. When did you discover that you liked gaming? Like, how did that come about?
Oh, well, probably in about 2005-10 time. How it came about was my love of poker.
Yeah.
Because do you know who Mel Smith is from Not the 9 O'Clock News?
Yes, of course, yeah.
He also played the man with, not embolism, what's it called? The man with anemia. Is that it? No.
Okay,
man with albinism.
Okay, oh yeah.
In Rob's film, Princess Bride.
Okay.
So Mel was a delightful friend of mine, and he was at university with me.
Yeah. And
he was a heroic gambler. Absolutely. I mean, he'd put 50 quid on a horse in the days when I'd be putting 50 pence on it back in the early 70s, And because his dad was a bookmaker. And he and his equally evil friend David Tupman vaguely taught me how to play poker. I had a vague idea before that. At the end of the session, I owed £16.
Oh boy!
And I was writing this check out with my hands, and Mel was saying, "Richard, is this all right?" And I said, "Yeah, well, just don't present the check until next week, and it should be okay." Because I had an allowance of £60 a month, which was quite a lot in 1972. And so he just sort of looked at me and picked the check up and said, "Look, well, don't do it again," and tore the check up and handed it back to me. That was lesson.
So, nice.
So Mel said, he said, "If you want to make money gambling, own a casino." So I ended up in Las Vegas in 2012 when I had won a seat in the World Series of Poker main event. And I met my partner in Las Vegas, and together we now own a gaming bar.
Wow.
So I do own a casino. So anyway, so my love of gaming led to that. My love of poker led to that. Is now I don't have any interest in gambling because I'm on the right side of the odds with owning the bar. And then that moved on. And simultaneously, Douglas Adams was well ahead of his time. He loved games and computer games, even when they were very, very primitive. And he would say, "Richard, this is great. You've got to try it. It's fantastic." And I would sort of say feeble things like, "Well, shouldn't you be writing?"
Yeah.
Because he was always late with his books. In fact, one time his agent invited him to lunch a long way out of London in the country, and Douglas eventually got to the hotel and said, "Oh, he's up at the receptionist sent him up to the room," and his agent locked him in the room, said, "You're not coming out till you've delivered this book." And Douglas was out within 9 days because he didn't want to be there any longer. So we were always teasing him about, shouldn't he be writing? Anyway,
well, I do.
He was always telling me that gaming was fantastic, and I discovered internet gaming around 2010, and I just thought, "Oh, Douglas was right, ahead of his time as always."
And his books are some of my favorite books I've ever written. I liked. Is it I wish I remember the name clearly now. Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Is that the one?
Yeah. Did you listen to the BBC series, what it all started as, the radio show?
Yes, I did. I have it on my computer.
I think that's better than the books.
Yeah.
With all those great actors like Stephen Jones and Peter Jones and Stephen, the person who plays Marvin, and and there's another Jones. I can't. There's too many Joneses and a Stephen. Anyway, a wonderful cast, and co-written by John Lloyd, who produced Blackadder, Not the 9 O'Clock News, Spitting Image, because he was Douglas's roommate, and he wrote the scripts with Douglas.
Wow, Spitting Image. I remember. I wonder, because you're talking about people that didn't really make it here. Do you know? Howie, do you know who Bruce Forsyth is? Do you remember that name?
No.
They was huge in England, but he knows who Cilla Black is for sure.
I know Cilla Black.
He knows who Cilla Black, but it's funny that these people that I know so well, like Cliff Richard, didn't even make it here so much. I mean,
no. I mean, a lot of it's really much. I think it's a lot to do with the university humour of the things like the Harvard Sneaky Pudding Club, whatever they're called, Hasty Pudding, is it? And the comedians who come out of the second city first, they're all pretty educated. They're smart people, and that level of wit travels east and west across the Atlantic much more easily than more working class comedy. If I'm not sure that's the right term for it, but more, Yeah. Anyway, that's I don't quite know how to define the difference between them. But
so when you worked I noticed when I worked in BBC that the people who are the big stars, like I didn't see people like Ronan, but they would, like when you're on an American TV show, the star comes in and he's acted like he's treated like royalty. Like he's a special royal person, but in the British shows, it's just another person coming to work on the set. Did you experience that kind of thing too? They didn't require some special...
Yes, I mean, there's a sort of sense that English people don't want to get above themselves.
Yes.
I mean, for example, if you go to New Zealand, it's even more of it down there. The tall poppy syndrome. I made a series down in New Zealand, 26-part film series, and people would say, well, what are you doing here? Why are you down here? It's a great series. It's a wonderful country. It's going to be fun. But they felt that if you just got your nose slightly above the parapet, New Zealand was going to be beneath anybody. It's weird. But and British people don't like to boast. They like to be self-effacing and to take it with humility.
And they also include that on the people. I remember Braveheart was filmed close to where I grew up in Ireland, and Mel Gibson would walk around my hometown in Ireland and nobody would mob him, nobody would say anything. He walked around totally free because the Irish would never say, he's just a person, he's not more important than me. And so, but the net effect for him was he wasn't bugged all day. He could walk around and shop and get a cup of tea and get a drink, and he was just a guy, right?
And they love that because quite often they're on display, they're on a show.
Yeah,
and so they like to have their space. It
was
respected. It's difficult because it goes with the territory. People get tremendously excited when you see someone off the TV. You sort of, a friend of mine, Nelson Rose, is the most eminent lawyer in America in the gaming industry, and his daughter was at school with my daughter, so he became a chum. And I knew he was a huge fan of Star Trek. So my wife did a job for Leonard Nimoy, which basically pulled his fat out of the fire. Long story, needn't go into it. But they were back in my wife's studio in the garden, the yard here, after a reception at a gallery. We invited a few people back for drinks and whatever afterwards. And when Nelson arrived, I didn't say anything. I said, oh, look, come with me, I just want to show you something. So we went out chatting about this, that, and the other, and into my wife's studio. And he saw Leonard Nimoy in front of him. He was, as I forgot to say, he's a huge Star Trek freak.
Yeah. And
when he saw Leonard Nimoy there, he rubbed his legs together and practically urinated down the inside of his trousers. It's sort of cringing. He was so pleased to see him. And Leonard was, being, hello, nice to meet you, sort of, couldn't have been more normal. And then when I took him back to the house, I said, you didn't tell me he was going to be there. Sort of, so even a lawyer at the top of his game gets starstruck, as we all do when you first meet stars. They're bigger than we are.
I lived in Hollywood for a while. I used to work for some people who were kind of famous in their homes, and after a while I got kind of, okay, they're just people. But, we're big Star Trek fans too, by the way. Howie's birthday.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Howie's birthday just passed, and he got a message from Nana Visitor.
Yeah.
Like, Cameo. I'm sure you've heard of Cameo. And that's a fresh, yeah. So he's like, so you got into gaming, and that moved.
I got to meet Bill Shatner about 6 months ago. Year and a half ago.
Oh, gosh.
At a friend's house.
Gosh, no.
94 and as sharp as a tack, so it was like a year and a half ago.
Wow.
It was lovely to meet him, because I was able to tell him how much I appreciated the writing of, oh my God, I can't remember anyone's name, but the man who wrote Boston Legal. It'll come back to me in a minute.
I know what you're talking about.
Just a superb scriptwriter. And so we both were, fanning on how well that thing was written.
Boston Legal was really good. I'm
not
not
was
a
his
big
character Denny Crane?
David Kelly.
Yeah.
Is that right?
David
Yes.
Kelly
Yes.
is it. I'm not a big fan of sitcoms. I watch very few, but I watch Boston Legal because Shatner,
I wouldn't call it a sitcom. It was a comedy-ish
maybe not a
drama.
Sitcom, Spader and Shatner in that matching was really cool. That was a great.
It was a great marriage. It was like Jeeves and Wooster, wasn't it? It was just a great,
a great show. And So being like living here for almost 30 years, I still miss being able to go down to the chipper. I still miss being able to find a good cup of tea. Is there things like that you miss about not living? Of course, it sounds like you go back to England quite frequently.
We do go back, about 90 days a year. Yes. Now I'm getting, into the end game of life. We think, where are we going to end up? And my wife said, we'll end up where the first one of us falls over. And then, of course, I had a medical issue in Seattle in the summer at WorldCon and went to hospital to get checked up. Everything fine. But she said, we're not going to end up in fucking Seattle.
Well,
anyway.
Weather-wise, Seattle does feel a lot like Dublin and London because I lived in
That
London.
is true.
And weather-wise, it does feel homey in that sense. But okay.
And the people are lovely. But I love Los Angeles. I love London. Either one of those will do me fine.
Yeah, I love Los Angeles too. I used to live down there too, obviously. But I live up in Northern California now. But okay, so let's talk about the path of 80s comedy writer to getting into gambling. By the way, we just got back from Vegas ourselves last week.
Did you see my money? I was there over the weekend and I left it all behind.
Yes, well, we left a bit too, but we went to... we stayed in the Look store. We didn't know about your bar at the time. I wish we'd done our research beforehand.
I will send you a link.
Please do.
No, I got my ass kicked. I played poker and I just... It's all very well coming second.
Yeah.
I mean, but you really want to come last in a poker hand, but coming second is expensive. But when you get like three large hands that are all outdrawn, you're leading, you get the other guy all in on the... And then we get outdrawn free, and I just thought, okay, this is not my day. So you just it goes with the territory.
It sounds like an expensive day too. If you're second,
It was definitely.
Yeah, that's like.
But I mean, I don't play for big stakes because that's I'm not good enough.
I mean, my family used to gamble when we were kids at home, and it made me too stressed out. So I'm not a gambler.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid and playing. Games for 50 pence, and it was stressing me out because 50 pence when I was 7 was a fortune,
Yes, it was.
And
yes,
when I was 7 in 79, yeah, it was a fortune. So it was stressed me out. But let's talk about. So then you decided you went from this like gaming world because you play games like RPG games. What games do you play?
Yes, that's the ones. Those are the ones that inspired my books.
Yeah. And I wanted to lead into your books here, but talk about the games first. What are your favorite games that you play?
Well, I like the sword and sorcery games. I don't really like horror stuff in either films or games. I don't like gore and blood. I like a nice adventure.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say nice, it can be grim and gritty, but it doesn't have to be totally twee and safe. And just one night I was in a group playing with 24 people all around the world, in our earphones, all chatting away. And I just thought, what would it really be like to be this guy, this heroic young battle mage with his magic staff, galloping around getting up to mischief? And so there was only one way to find out, which was to write it. Mm-hmm. But it's not set in a game. It's inspired from a game. So some of the gaming tropes are similar, but there's no, it's not in a natural game like a Dungeon Crawler Carl or something.
Well,
it's
I read the sample chapter that you can get from your book. And by the way, we should tell people, since we're talking about it, you can go to richardsparks.com and read your book, which is called, number one is called New Rock, New Roll. Is that it?
Yeah, New Rock, New Roll, ROLE. So it came out of my love of role-playing games.
That's nice.
And then a rock is a planet, like Third Rock from the Sun was the sitcom.
I love that sitcom.
John Lithgow, I think.
John,
So our guys are magically whisked out of this world into another one, and instead of being world champions, they're complete beginners, and they're useless, and they've got to learn how to survive. And where are the other two? And I'm being chased by wolves, and the next thing you know, he's sold off into the army and has to learn how to do anything, let alone if there's magic in this world. So, one of the nice things about role-playing games is the whole beginning process, getting to know the world, let the map unfold around you.
And that's it.
So that's the first book, and of course, a quest reveals itself that is bigger than they are,
and
they're there just in time to do their little bit to help.
And
then there are the sequels follow on, the New Rock, New Realm.
And I see there's
they go somewhere else and do something else.
And there's one coming out. The third one is New Rock, New Rules, and New Rock.
New Rules. Yeah, I got that's this one.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that out right now, or are you giving me an exclusive?
That came out in November. The fourth book is meant to be coming out in November 2026 this year. And my editor's in town at the moment for a conference, so she's going to come and stay with us this weekend, and she's going to give me my notes and sit me back down to work to do the polish on the fourth book. And that's the end of the series. The story, each book is its own adventure story.
Yes.
But it sort of knocks onto the next book and the next adventure story, so it expands. And by the end of the fourth book, it's all wrapped up together. So you don't get the sense of this is never going to end. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's plenty of availability for sequels. Yeah. Should I manage to think of a good idea? But this was interesting. Is that once I got to the end of the fourth book and realized that's landed, that's planted, that's done, that's good. Then I went on to write a fifth book, and I dropped it after a while because it wasn't as good as the others. And I'm not going to write anything that doesn't have that same standard. I thought, oh no, I figured out what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
And just thought, no, you don't need to keep. You've finished that. You don't need to keep flogging a horse that you've buried. Mm-hmm. Respectfully, it is dead, but it died an honourable death. You don't need to keep reviving it in order to. I had nothing to prove.
Yeah.
But sequels, for example, the grandchildren might have adventures, and then you start again with a whole new attitude in that world. That is one way it could go in the future, or short stories. But the main thing is it's wrapped up.
So the third book is for sale now, right?
The third book's out, yes, and the fourth book comes out towards Christmas.
Somebody needs to update your website, because it looks like the third book isn't out according to your website. It looks like
You're kidding me.
It still says coming soon. Yeah. Giving you some, hey, I'm a tech guy. I'm saying it says, it shows that 1 and 2 are out, but in 3 has a curtain over it, and a blue curtain that says new book, new rock, new rules.
But there's meant to be a reveal. I mean, did you press on the curtain and see if anything happened?
No, nothing's happening on the curtain.
Okay. I will write.
Yeah.
I will. That's not very good. I thought we'd put that to bed. I don't deal with all that. I let my assistant put it together. But the thing about the website is you can get the free sample chapters, and so if you like the feel of the world, you can get a taste of it, and then come on in and join us.
Well, I wanted to ask you if you're open to. I downloaded your chapter. Would you be open to reading part of this chapter on this show tonight? What I did is
a chapter from the new book, the third book,
the one that I downloaded. Because I just had what was available on your website, but I found the chapter from. It's called. Let me open it up here. Sorry, it's called. It's from the. It looks like it's from New Rock, New Roll. It's 13.
With the funny poem in it.
Kalura, yeah.
Yeah, Clara. That's fun. But I tell you what. If you haven't got book 3, one of the interesting things about book 3 is that I give you the answer to everything in chapter 9 out of 40 chapters, and you're looking, you go, yeah, well, I see what it says, but what does it mean? Out of nowhere. I mean, they're stuck. There's a problem that's arrived, and they've got to deal with it, and then they seem to be told the answer, which makes it. I could read that chapter if you would like something different. Yeah,
I'd love if you were open to read that. I would love that, because we are a storytelling podcast, so reading stories is what we do, and telling. We do have some. We have some stories that we wrote. It's a little intimidating to read stories to a writer about him, a writer. But we do have the stories we wrote. What we do is we research and we look you up and read about you and look at your podcast. And we write a tribute story, also a poem. But I don't think we've ever read one to a writer of your caliber before. But I would love you to read your.
Well, I mean, are you going to do that, or shall I do? I found that.
Just make sure.
Don't worry.
Okay, we're recording again. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, please read your chapter.
Well, the person who's talking is Esmeralda, the young queen, who they rescued in the first book. and she's 16, and she's the curse or the blessing that was put upon her on her naming day by her godmother was the loveliest life there ever was or ever will be. So everyone falls in love with Esmeralda, and that turns out to be a problem in book 3, when a villain who is extraordinarily entitled and all-powerful turns up, and they all have to deal with this, but they don't know. So there's a sort of a meeting of the experts who are wondering what to do about the problems facing the realm, and we haven't even seen the villain yet, by the way. So Esmeralda's talking. She says, "So we have all the guilds and all the forces and all the resources. Well, that has to be something, right?" It sounded good in theory. It sounded unconvincing when she said it. Nobody needed to say the obvious. We didn't know what we were dealing with. We didn't know how to solve the problem because we still didn't really know what the problem was. We all felt more unsettled than we had when this conclave had begun, more challenged and confused. No one knew what to say, where to start. And then, her eyes still closed, Dean Aylwin inhaled slowly through her nose and raised her chin from her chest. All eyes turned to her. I glanced at Marnie as she leaned forward, her body still, her eyes fixed on Aylwin. I looked down at her old hands on the table in front of her, both crossing their fingers. Aylwin spoke, her voice dry and weak, her eyes still closed. "Run and hide," she whispered. She was, as far as we could tell, still asleep, or perhaps in a trance. She was with us in person, but far away in spirit. I knew that the others were thinking what I was thinking. Run and hide? Well, that fits the Wild Hunt. In the silence, Aylwin's chest rose and fell with her slow, deep breathing. My own, I could feel, was much shallower and twice as fast. Her face was a mask. Eventually her soft voice came again. "Hide and run," she echoed. Yes, that's what I did indeed. I hid and I ran. And if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here now. So now what? What happens next? We waited, our eyes fixed on her. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Marnie fidget. She was anxious for more. Clearly, she felt that this was important. Perhaps I realized that was why Aylwin was here. I knew nothing about her, beyond her title, Dean Auditory of the College of Law and Learning. Eventually, Aylwin said, "Don't assume." I thought, don't assume what? I had no idea. Aylwin spoke again. "Dead, reborn." In the silence that followed, I wondered, is that good? Is that bad? I didn't know how to make sense of what she was saying. In her chair, Aylwin stirred as if agitated, her mouth working, her eyes screwed tight. Eventually, the words came in a rush. "Wield the broom, sweep the sky, sound the horn, hue and cry." She broke off and coughed, agitated. Clearly every word had been a struggle for her. Her tongue slipped through her lips to moisten them. Something else was coming, we felt, but it didn't. All we heard were soft grunts coming from deep in her chest, as if she was listening to someone. She nodded as if she had heard and understood. Slowly she turned her old face towards me, her eyes still closed. A hand reached out towards me. When she spoke again, her tone was different, as if she was giving me specific steps, how to do what she was telling us needed to be done. "Unlock the rune." I tried to make sense of that. Unlock the rune? What does that mean? Runes are symbols, letters, written on parchment or carved into stone. Who locks runes? Is that even possible? How do you lock a rune? How do you unlock one? Observe the moon. Okay, yes, that I can do, but please, we need more. It seemed that I wasn't going to get more, and that was all she was going to say. Her chin dropped to her chest again, and her breathing settled and slowed. Eventually, I sensed the others around the table stirring as if they felt that the episode was over. It wasn't. "Assume the form," Aylwin mumbled into her chest as we strained to hear. "Unleash the storm in fire and flood and turn the tide. Again we waited and listened in suspense. The only sound in the room was Aylwyn's deep, steady breathing. Was that it? We waited. Slowly, Aylwyn raised her head again. Divide the blood, she added, nodding. Devour the sun. Let darkness fall and end it all. Behind her closed eyes, she seemed to be looking up for something above her, for further guidance, perhaps. It didn't come. After end it all, it seemed there was nothing more. She swallowed. She sighed and her head fell back against the back of her chair, her body slumping down as all the tension left it. The first of us to come out of the spell was Marnie. "Well now," she said. She pushed her chair back and got up, hobbling around the table to Aylwyn, who had fallen into a deep sleep. Marnie lifted Aylwyn's hands out of her lap and held them in her own. "So, what's that then, dear?" she asked gently, and I'd never heard Marnie sound so respectful. Slowly, Aylwyn's head lifted. Her eyes opened. She looked around, puzzled, as if not knowing where she was. Then she found Marnie and frowned, as if she'd been expecting to see something or someone else. At last she recognised her. "What is what?" Aylwyn said. "What you just said, sister." Aylwyn relaxed. She smiled a faraway smile, as if she had just heard happy news. She replied, "I said something? Oh, how nice! What did I say?" Marnie told her. Aylwyn nodded, considering. "Well, I never," she said. "I wonder what that means." And there's a bit more. But all in that, and then we repeat the poem. That the answer to the entire riddle in the book is there.
Wow.
And I lead you through the steps to get to the end where it all makes sense. And, you know, it's what Kierkegaard, the philosopher, said, life is lived forwards but understood backwards.
Yeah.
So when you get to the book, you'll look back and say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But at the time you're looking at that going, what? What the hell? This is the answer. But anyway, and our hero has to go off and struggle his way through it.
It must be hard to decide how much to reveal, to make it not too revealing, to give people the story. So when we look back, we say, oh my gosh, I already knew the answer in chapter 9. And I'm not...
That is your job as the writer. I mean, in that book, I must have thrown away 200 pages of manuscript, going off in different directions, boiling it all together. Because the point about the book is you see the bit of the iceberg sticking out above the water.
Yeah.
The author's job is to do all the work underneath it. I recently listened to a book by P.G. Wodehouse in which he talked, this was a book he read 100 years ago. He talked about his planning for each book. He said he loves writing the books, but he doesn't really enjoy the process of planning them. And he says he has his notebooks, and when he gets about 300 pages of notes, he knows it's time to start. And I go, 300 pages? And this is from a master of books, that he would write them, polish them, rewrite them, and so his books are effortless to read. And you realize, God, the amount of work he put into this that we don't see. And if it's good enough for a master like him, it's good enough for the rest of us writers to put in the work and make sure that you, the reader, don't have, you can try and work out the puzzles in a book. That's always fun. But your job is to sit there in the armchair and our job is to give you an armchair ride.
Well, we
so
want
to take you through the adventure.
We want to see the swan, and we want to experience the swan, and you're the one who's making that furious underneath the water thing that we don't see, right?
Yes, absolutely. But our job is to do the work. If you paid your $10 or $20, whatever it is, for a book, you deserve to sit back and be treated like royalty.
So listening to you read your piece, it seems like it's deeper than just entertainment. You think like writing is something like deeper than just a dime entertainment time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's possible to read stuff into books that aren't there or into stories that aren't there, but there is always subtext, and there's always more going on than just on the surface. And a good writer will do this. And look at Tolkien, for example. There are many threads of interesting ideas going on in there that carry you through the story and illuminate your life and your thoughts. And that's the joy of literature. That's what I studied for 3 years at university. Is learning how to read deeply and seeing what other people have written and learning what our culture has given us. And all I've ever wanted to do is make my own contributions to that, because I love it. It's not necessarily always easy, but it is. If I'm not writing, I get very jumpy.
So your book, the New Rock series, explores like strategy and community and what they're doing in the book. What do those themes say about the world we live in? Is that the way we live our lives?
Of course, it's a distorting mirror to the world we live in, because, as William Shatner said, we were talking about him earlier, science fiction is just human beings in other places. Yeah. So looking at a fantasy world, the wisdom that you get out of those stories, whether it's the Gilgamesh or the Arabian Nights or Beowulf or anything of the last 2,000 years in Western European culture, reflects into the lives of the people who are listening to those stories, experiencing the stories, and you learn from them. You don't necessarily learn like an instruction manual of do this, do that, but things seep into your life and help you orientate yourself to where you're going.
Yes. Your books are exactly what I love to read, and I appreciate. I found them, and I read all the chapters available. I'm glad that 3 is available, as the website looks like. But these are. But when I came in, I was thinking that quote from Douglas Adams: "In the beginning, the universe was created." This had made many people angry and was widely regarded as a bad move. I was expecting it to be that kind of humor, but your book is not like that. But.
Well, Douglas did a different job, and he did it brilliantly.
He was amazing.
I had a beer with John Lloyd last time I was in London, who was his writing partner and the producer of, Spitting Image and all those things. The best producer of our generation. Mm-hmm. And he said, Douglas was hopeless at everything except having brilliant ideas. Such a great summary. And they were flatmates. They knew each other at university.
Well,
and Douglas was, he was just great at doing what he did. But what he's doing in his books is somewhere between spoof and reflecting upon the story that he's telling.
Yes.
A slightly, I don't know. I don't think Terry Pratchett does the same thing, but Terry has a sense of standing off his stories sometimes, where he's kind of mocking them, and he's another, authentic genius of fantasy.
Like Stephen Fry does that when he talks too. That it's very highbrow, but there's comedy and mocking and spoof in what he says too.
Exactly. So there's all the depth. I mean, Stephen, is a polymath. And a delightful guy.
And who was the?
In fact, I'm going to name drop at you now, because I was at a conference in Seattle, I think, a year or so ago, and my wife and I went to sit in the audience of a panel, because it was about the British game QI, which Stephen chairs and John produced. So there were 4 people on stage, and they were sort of playing QI and talking about the show and like enjoying the whole thing. So I texted Stephen and John and said, I'm at a panel and have you got anything to say? And Stephen texted back something lovely. So at the end I just held up and said my finger and said, got a message for you, and read out his text saying, wish I was there or something. But no, he's delightful man, Stephen.
Well, he seems delightful. And there's another famous British, I think he might have passed away, but he was a famous I think he might have been a famous atheist, or he always argued. What was that guy's name? I always see him in speeches with Stephen Fry.
Christopher Hitchens.
Oh,
Christopher Hitchens.
Yes, I phenomenal people, and people who speak truth when it hurts and truth when it I like.
Yeah, he would hitch slap his opponents.
Yeah,
he was just the greatest.
He is great. Yeah, wow.
And you should read his autobiography. It's fascinating, because he was at Oxford University at the same time as I was, 2 years ahead of me, and he was 3 years, because he was a year ahead of Martin Amis. Martin Amis was in my college, so I knew Martin. Didn't know Hitchcock, but Hitchens. My wife met him in Venice at a conference. No, in Aspen, and Hitchens was just brilliant. He was on top of everything, but he did no work at the university. He was too busy, going on marches and being a committed man. Wanted to improve the universe. But what a mind! I mean, he's just
Amazing,
brilliant.
yeah.
Just brilliant.
I consume everything he has. I'm trying not to be too gushing and be a fanboy. You have Stephen Fry's phone number. You text Stephen Fry. You called Rob Reiner. You just called him your friend Rob. You know, you have this.
Oh
wealth
God! How creepy of me. I'm just trying to talk about something people would know about. I suppose.
Yeah, it's great.
But they're all heroes. They're heroes of mine as well as friends.
Yeah, they're. Wow. So I wonder, how people in comedy, like I know Robin Williams famously had some darkness in his life, and is the like this. I don't think people really get the dichotomy of people who make you laugh. Sometimes can have dark places themselves. Is that
of course, light doesn't work without shadow. Of course,
Yeah,
you go on. I think the last time I talked to Robin Williams was maybe not the last time, in 1984, here in LA, and it was the year of the Olympics. And I'd never met him, but we went. My wife and I went to the comedy store or the comic strip, or whatever it's called, to watch comedians. Yeah. And Robin Williams was standing by the bar, and I'm going to drop another name at you, but my friend Peter Cook and we talked about comedians, and I said Robin Williams was great. He said, "Oh, he's a friend of mine. If you ever meet him, say hello from me." So I plucked out the courage to go to Robin, who was just standing at the bar by himself, and said, "I'm a friend of Peter Cook's," and he says hello, and are you performing tonight? Because he says you're great or whatever, and he says, "Oh well, no, I've already been on," and then he sort of looked around and said, "Well, look, just don't tell anyone, okay? But I'm going to come back tomorrow and do another set." So this is when he was already very well known from Mork and Mindy. So he didn't publicise his appearances because he didn't want big crowds. He wanted to go and try stuff out in a small room.
Yeah.
So my wife and I told everyone we knew in Hollywood, which was one couple, and a school friend of hers from New York, and her husband. And so we went the next night and we got a table, and it was a classic setup of, this is late 1984, as I said, so there's some poor girl on stage dying and being, this a room of maybe 30 people. And it was the days when the comedian would say things like, "Hi, is anyone here from the Valley?" And wait for a response and do that, rather than having a set where they just nailed the audience like people do now. And so she wasn't particularly going down well. Anyway, she went off and people gave her a polite round of applause, but were obviously quite bored. And then Bud came on, Friedman, and said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, do I have a surprise? Do I have a treat for you, Robin Williams?" And everyone in the room sat up straight like that.
Yeah.
And on he came, and he didn't use a microphone.
Yeah.
And it was the Olympics. So he busked. By that, in England, that means make stuff up as he went along. Ad-libbed a whole lot of stuff about the Olympics. And he ended up combining the Pakistani baseball base stealing and hubcap stealing team running around the auditorium using silly cod Pakistani accents, stealing hubcaps, stealing bases, throwing people out, playing all the parts, charging around the auditorium. And, I don't think I've ever been in such pain before or since. I know everyone was just absolutely doubled up. So when you're in the presence of a performer who can do that to you, they're absolutely the real thing. And then afterwards, I said, that was great, thank you. And he'd sort of, "Oh, thank you." He sort of went back down again into a sort of quiet little person. Rowan is the same. He's off stage. He's very, he's a scientist. He's an electrical engineer. He's a car freak. On stage, he's a force of nature.
Yeah.
So how can anyone be on all the time? I would think it's impossible.
Well, I know, but when the people, all they see of them is the persona that they play on the TV, and then people think they know you when they see you, I'm sure, because of the character that you play. Yeah.
That's definitely is true for the actors, yes. And but I think they learn to handle it and to have. I mean, one person who's great at it, not that I've ever met him, is Tom Cruise. He'll give, and I'm just all the time in the world to people in the street when he meets them. He's
Wow.
very generous with his time, and he's the biggest star of our lifetime.
Well, so if you will, it's a bit intimidating to read a story we wrote to a writer, but if you
go ahead.
If you will endure us, we're going to have. I have to say this because Howie actually has fans, and I said we have 100,000 people listening a month, and people write to me and say we want to hear the sultry voice of Howie, and so that's what they want now. Because I called it that a few times, and now that's going to become his persona now. So the sultry voice of Howie is going to read the tribute story we wrote about Richard Sparks. Okay, so here it is.
All right. The second game. There's a moment in life when you think you've already played your best hand. You've built a career, found your rhythm, learned the rules of the world you're in. And for a while it works. Richard Sparks knew that world well. The timing of a joke, the rhythm of a line, the delicate art of making people laugh at just the right moment. Writing for some of the most iconic voices in British comedy, he understood how stories land and how they linger. But life has a way of introducing new games, ones you didn't plan to play, ones you didn't immediately understand. For Richard, that game came later, not in youth, not at the beginning, but in a moment when many people believe the story is already written. Gaming, a new world, a new language, a new way of thinking, strategy, challenge, community. At first, just curiosity, then something deeper, a spark. Because what he discovered there wasn't just entertainment. It was possibility. A reminder that creativity doesn't belong to a single chapter in your life. It moves. It adapts. It waits for you to follow it again. And so he did. From comedy stages to imagined worlds, from punchlines to epic journeys, from scripts to stories that unfold across entire landscapes. The New Rock series wasn't just a new project. It was a new level. A place where everything he had learned, timing, structure, character, humor, could live again, but in a different form. Because here's the quiet truth Richard embodies. You don't outgrow creativity. You outgrow the boxes you put it in. And when you allow yourself to begin again, not from scratch, but from experience, something remarkable happens. The past doesn't disappear. It evolves. The skills you thought belonged to one life become tools for another. The risks you were once afraid to take became the very thing that keeps you alive. And suddenly, you're not starting over, you're leveling up. Richard Sparks didn't leave one life behind. He carried it forward, transformed it, reimagined it. Because sometimes the most important story you'll ever tell is the one where you decide you're not finished yet.
Okay, there is our very kind of up.
That's really insightful, and I thank you for that. But it's absolutely true. You know, more things unfold.
Mm-hmm.
As I've just written a few 5-minute sketches
Wow.
for a possible stage show, and they're better than anything I could have written 40 years ago. So
Well,
you live and you learn.
Well, what I appreciate about you is I'm 53 and I started this podcast 4 years ago and it's exploded, and I didn't think at 53 I could have a successful thing. You know, you start to think when you turn 50 like it's all, well, you're waiting to retire and it's starting to go downhill. That's not the way I think, but people do think that way, and it's obvious that you don't think that way either. So that's inspiring.
Well, yeah, but I can get on board with that because you do doubt yourself.
Yeah.
I remember I had the monkey on my back for a long, long time. I'd had some early things that had been successful and paid jobs and stuff, but I still had this feeling that I wasn't going anywhere, that I was not just treading water, but not even doing that. I was just so stuck, even though I was working. And then the monkey was gone. I don't exactly know when it happened, but I just know. I mean, I think it was something to do with a job I had done, and you just realise, oh God, that's such a relief. That's gone, and yeah, you. Why should you know everything at 20? Why should that be it? I mean, why should you have instant hits? You're lucky if you have an early hit, but this is why I feel sorry for sports people, because their lives are over at 30, 35 or whatever. Then what do they do? What's the second act? And the second act is as important as the first, surely.
Yeah, I mean...
And especially if you're a creative person, so look at the artists and stuff. You should continue to get better and better as you go along.
But we are convinced at 20. I remember me at 20. I convinced that this is as smart as I'm ever going to be. And 20-year-olds think that. I was telling my son yesterday.
Yeah.
I said, you truly think you're at that point that you know everything. But I've changed so much in the 30 years since I was 20. So,
well, of course, what we now know is the human brain isn't fully formed until you're 30. I remember there was this guy at school who was a complete shit, but he was very funny. And I'd always loved comedy. And rolling on the floor in the cinema watching films. And I just thought, this guy, that's what I want to do. I don't want to use it to be nasty to people.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to have that wit, that off the top of my head funniness that comes. And so you work on it. When you're 13 and 14, your brain's adaptable, and I got it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example. Is when the first time I met John Cleese was 1979. Rowan Atkinson and I and Richard Curtis, Peter Wilson and his wife Elspeth, the three of them were in it. Richard was the other writer. And it was not a very successful show in a small theatre in London. John Cleese and Martin Lewis, the producers, saw the show. Everyone had heard that Rowan was the next best thing. And so, but the sketch that I wrote for Rowan, the schoolmaster sketch, was the best thing in it. And so I got a call from Rowan a year later, and he said, John Cleese has just rung. He wants me to be in his new comedy show, and can I do the schoolmaster sketch? So I said, yeah, of course. So we met in a pub, and then we walked down to the theatre for the afternoon rehearsal at Her Majesty's, and Rowan took me up on stage when whatever was on stage stopped being rehearsed and introduced me to John Cleese. And Cleese was, 9 foot tall and I'm 5'9", and he shook my hand and looked down and he said, "Your face looks vaguely familiar." Cleese. And off the top of my head, this is the difference between a funny writer and a funny person, I came up with a line that I said, well, I can usually pick it out 9 times out of 10 in a not too crowded mirror, which at the time was funny. I'm not very good at repeating jokes because I'm not an actor. But here's the thing. Cleese's laugh, he looked at me and went, as he laughed at my impromptu joke. His joke made me laugh more than my funny line made him laugh, because he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's just a funny, he's a great clown. And so when somebody like that delivers, it's much better than when somebody like me, who can write stuff but isn't a funny performer. And that's what, like Rowan, as I said, is off stage. He's quite, self-contained.
But I imagine
put him on stage and he switches on like a 1,000-watt light bulb.
But imagine when people like Rowan and John Cleese and Robin Williams stood on the stage, people had the expectation of them being funny too, so they are ready. This person is going to be funny. So people go in with that mindset too, that this person is going to be. And of course, they are talented and funny also, but like
yeah, I mean I'm a huge Billy Strings fan. I don't know if you know anything about bluegrass music and modern music, but I mean Billy Strings is the young genius of bluegrass and rock and roll these days, and so I've been to see him like 4 times live, and the audience is full of people who follow him all over the world, and we're all there because we love him. And he sells out 20,000-30,000 seat. I've just managed to score 4 tickets for August in LA. I'm thrilled about that. But when you go to see somebody you really are a fan of, I mean, you're halfway to heaven already, and all they have to do is deliver. If you go and see somebody you've never heard of, you're sort of more, well, come on then, make me laugh.
So one of the biggest blue string concerts in Northern California and goes on in Plymouth, which is steps from my house,
right.
in a fairground. And if you ever come up to Northern California, I've got a beautiful Airbnb you can stay in. Steps from where they play.
A bluegrass...
a huge bluegrass festival is in Plymouth, California I think it's September.
Really?
It's about September.
I haven't been up to that one. I mean, I play the 5-string banjo, although I haven't actually played it for a couple of years. I've since I started writing the books, I've rather let it drop. But, I love bluegrass, but Billy Strings, he'll start off playing a bluegrass song, and like 5 minutes later he's in a Grateful Dead number, and then he's coming out of a Pink Floyd number, and then he's back. I mean, he's just extraordinary. It's heaven. So it's not just purist bluegrass that I love.
So
anything good is great.
Great, you got such a wealth of does your wife keep up with you? Is it just one child you have? Or do your family keep up?
We have the one child. Yes, she said after it was quite a long birth in England, they don't rush the childbirth. She said, I'm not doing that again. So we just had one, and we got a very nice daughter, I'm thrilled to say. But I mean, we do everything together. We travel a lot, and she hasn't been to see a Billy Strings concert because she doesn't really like to go out into crowds, what with COVID and all that. But usually we go to see shows together.
So looking back on your life, what do you think is the biggest risk you took?
Biggest risk? Well, apart from stupid things I did when I was driving cars as a young man, taking on the wrong side of the road. I got my first job after 9 months after leaving university. I finally got a job. I mean, I really didn't want one. I think that's why I was sort of being a taxi driver. Anyway, I got a job in television in Wales. Mm-hmm. And after the first year, I signed up for another year thinking I can't just have a job for 1 year. It won't look very good on my resume, my CV. And after about 2 weeks when I'd signed up for the second year, I thought, who am I kidding? I'm never going to have a resume. I'm never going to have it. This is hell. I don't like this. I was in TV writing the things the announcers say between programs and making trailers, and just generally felt like I was wasting my life.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a writer. So I just... Anyway, so I gave that job up and haven't had a job since. I've made a living with my pen. And some years have been great, and other years have been rather, living off the fat of the previous year. Because there are, like in the book writing world, you don't earn money off books the way you do off scripts. So for young writers, I always talk about, you have to really make a name for yourself if you're going to be able to live off writing books. It's a crowded scene.
Any whispers about the New Roxy series being adapted for TV or film?
Yes, there are. I sold the rights some years ago. They may have lapsed by now. When did the first book come out? Anyway, 2 or 3 years ago. The producer's in England. Yeah. And we were debating whether to go back and forth, whether it's film or TV. I've written the first book as a 2-hour film. And while it gallops along and it's a perfectly good 3-act structure, it leaves out a lot of the richness of the book. And I would think I would prefer it to be a TV series, but I mean, if the book turned out to sell 1 million copies in the next 3 weeks, we'd have offers deluging us from the studios. But as we are, establishing ourselves as a franchise, the producer goes to the companies and says, "Well, here's an idea. What about this? What about that?" You get more time in a TV show.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read the book Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
Yeah, I did.
Well, that book is brilliant. I mean, the story structure is fantastic, but the film was awful. I couldn't stand it because I was such a fan of the book.
Yeah.
There was almost nothing from the book in it. It was very shallow. They had none of the glory of the build-up of the different sequences. It was just all slam bang, in your face nonsense. And all the good and then bringing in a stupid scene from The Shining, and I just left that film so just like deflated. And my goddaughter in England said, you got to see this film. And I said, okay, I've seen. Read the book. And she called me up after reading the book and said, yeah, I see what you mean. So sometimes whatever happens to it, we'll do our very best to make sure it's good.
Well, is there a book adaptation that you like the movie, or have they ever done that right?
Well, I thought the Lord of the Rings series that Jackson did was pretty good.
They were.
I mean, because everyone has a different picture of those characters and those places in their minds. He pulled that. I mean, that was a very, very successful.
Bilbo
job.
Baggins was exactly how I pictured him, and they so many characters of that exactly how I pictured them. So
really, yeah. But I thought it was wonderful, and because again, those books are seminal. I mean, Tolkien kind of reminded people that fantasy was for adults as well as for children.
And I'm going to New Zealand next year, and I am going to visit like Hobbiton or whatever. Just because I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but if I'm going to be in New Zealand, I have to visit there. So
I don't even know really. I made a TV series in New Zealand a long time ago, which I was very grateful to be able to do, and it's an amazing country. It's so beautiful. It's got fjords like Norway and deserts like the Sahara and beaches like Tahiti, and it's just glorious.
I'm excited to go. So as we close here, what's the Richard Sparks message to kids who are starting out as writers or in the TV or actors? What's the message like? What would you like to say to them?
Nobody's going to do it for you. You just have to do it yourself. And one of the things is that what makes you different is worth keeping an eye on. But don't just try to be different for the sake of being different. Learn the rules. Learn about story structure. Then once you've learnt the rules, you can break them. Look at all the great composers. They learn the rules and then off they go when we get jazz. But, Picasso is a fantastic template because he was a brilliant draftsman and an extraordinarily talented painter. And then when he went off into his cubism and expressionist phases, he wasn't painting like he did before, but he had the rules nailed. Wow. So don't jump straight to the look. Learn the melody before you give me the riff, okay? But learn the basics, and also just you have to practice. You have to. I've got a cupboard full of old scripts that have never gone anywhere, and books that weren't very good enough to be published. And we all need to do that because then you're learning. It's not a wasted effort. The book that you didn't finish that goes into the bottom drawer, that's not wasted. That's learning. You go, that's not what I write. Why am I trying to write that? But never, ever, ever try to write like somebody else.
Yeah.
Just write like yourself. Be true to yourself. And it may take a while to discover that. But if you know you're a writer, then prove it.
By writing the way you should write. And
Yeah, I mean, it's inside all of us.
Yeah.
I know this is what I do. And then one of the things that I never thought I would go and do any TV scripts and stuff like that, but it started at university, writing comedy sketches, because a friend asked me to write them. If you go into TV and film and stuff like that, you can get paid. You get paid to write, and then you get feedback, and people say you did a good job, and that validates you. You think, yes, I can do this. I always knew I can do it, but this is somebody in the business tells me my work was good. That gives you the confidence to go on and try something else, and then at some point you break out of your pupa, and you spread your wings and you fly. A horrendously mangled metaphor to end on there.
Well, my concern is a lot of kids, the YouTube kids, think that they more and more extreme, and so they're trying to be so extreme and they're not being genuine. And so there's this world of be extreme and do something wild to get noticed, the YouTube world, right? So
yeah, well, that's playing the effect. That's not playing the spine of the story.
Yeah,
that's just easy. That's just like, I mean, you'll learn if that will work for a bit and maybe get you somewhere, but then you're going to have to learn the the stuff that everybody needs, which is story structure. That's the hardest thing, is story structure. Most of us can write good dialogue, good description, come up with good characters, have good ideas. But to how to build a story, and like the thing I read from you earlier, a quarter of the way through the story, I give you the answer. That took a lot of constructing to get there. Yeah. But you, as the reader, don't notice it. You just cruise through it, have a good time.
I grew up in Ireland watching shows that Richard Sparks helps bring into the world. The young ones, the chaos, the comedy that felt like it was tearing the walls down on purpose. And tonight I found out that it wasn't recklessness at all. It was people like Richard who knew the rules so completely that they could bend them without anyone noticing. The craft underneath the laugh. What I'm going to carry from this conversation is something simple. The scripts in the bottom drawer aren't failure. They're tuition. Every story you started and didn't finish, every draft that went nowhere, that's not wasted. That's you learning what you are and what you are not. And one day, if you're paying attention, you can figure out which one you are and stop pretending to be the other. Richard has a cupboard full of those scripts. And he also has 50 years of television, a body of work that shaped comedy landscape for 2 continents, and a story about Stefan Grappelli that I will be thinking about for a very long time. Learn the melody before you give me the rift. Thank you, Richard, for your time, and thank you for your comedy, and thank you for being an important part of my childhood. I'm Doyle. This is Spirit Talk Show, Bedtime Stories for Grown-Ups. Now go make a story worth telling.